of members, okay? And you've seen, like we were talking about just today, one of the things the Senate only can do is confirm presidential appointments. Like Joe Biden made an appointment of Janet Yellen to become Secretary of Treasury, and the Senate gave their approval. They voted her in by a vote of like 84 to 10. All right? That's a good overwhelming number. Okay? So presidential confirmations happen on the regular. You're going to see several of them occur over the next few weeks. We also mentioned that the Senate's responsible for approving treaties, right? Even though they're both special and can only have certain, like the Senate does some things and the House does some things, remember, there are powers that Congress has as a whole unit, okay? Stuff they can make laws about, right? Because that's their number one job, right? Remember, Congress has certain enumerated powers, ones that you find specifically written in the Constitution. You don't need to memorize all of the powers of Congress, the enumerated powers. But remember, there are some that are kind of important. Hey, Kaiser, can you remind me of one of the enumerated powers of Congress? Something specifically listed in the Constitution they can do. No, somebody help her out. Hang on. Power to tax and spend. It's been a while since I've gotten to give out any gold stars, so I feel like gold stars are in order. Disco. All right, tax and spend. Fun fact, Joe Biden's getting ready to ask Congress to pass a bill that would authorize $1.9 trillion in spending. That's your tax dollars, and they're spending it. What are they spending that on? Stimulus checks, COVID relief. All right, you all won't personally get a check, but I will. And believe me, there's nothing like looking at your bank account online and seeing that payment drop. You're like, oh yeah, PlayStation 5 for me.
You would.
No, actually, what I would do is buy something frivolous like a new Apple TV, right? Which was definitely worth the price. 4K is where it's at. All right, tax and spend. That's something that Congress has the ability to make laws about. They can tax you and then they can spend that money. What's another enumerated power of Congress? Regulate interstate commerce. That means they can make rules about commercial activity between states. All right? Tax and spend, regulate interstate commerce. Those are two of the important ones. There's another one.
Isn't that raise an army?
Raise an army and a navy. I'll accept that. I was going for declare war, but I will give you credit because technically that is an enumerated power as well. Congress has the power to raise and maintain an army, raise and maintain a navy. They can coin money. They can borrow money. Right? There's a lot of things they can do. But regulating interstate commerce, tax and spend, declare war, those are the big three that they have the power to do. Okay? If you remember the other ones, that's great too. All right? Oh, man. Okay? But remember, the enumerated powers, that's not the only stuff that Congress can make laws about. They can also make laws that are what we call, they get them through implied powers. All right? Implied means that it's what? It's related to one of those enumerated powers, so it's implied or inferred they have the power to do it. All right? And they get those through the necessary and proper clause, which says Congress has all the power to make any laws they deem necessary and proper as long as those laws are created or related to the enumerated powers. Okay? Remember, it's also the elastic clause. Think of stretchy stuff, because Congress definitely likes to stretch what they can make laws about. Could Congress make a law that created a national speed limit?
They have done that.
Yes, they have. Okay? And that is okay for them to do. All right? Could Congress make laws about workplace safety standards? Yes. All right? Even though it's not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, you could imply or infer that they have that power. It's related to things in the Constitution. Okay? Now, that aside, let's talk about Congress in terms of representation in Congress. Right? Remember, for the House and the Senate, it's vastly different. They had to compromise at the convention. In the Senate, how many senators does each state get? 2. Everybody gets 2 senators regardless of your geographic size, regardless of your population. All right? Doesn't matter. Rhode Island, small state geographically, 2 senators. Alaska, huge state, nobody lives there. 2 senators. which is nice because there's only like 10 people there, so you got like a 1 in 5 chance of being a senator. Wyoming, I have a conspiracy theory that Wyoming doesn't really exist. Have you ever met anybody from Wyoming? See, there you go. It's a joke. I don't really believe that. Wyoming still gets 2 senators. California, 40 million people, 2 senators. Oof. I think, by the way, Alaska, their population's like 300,000. West Virginia is like 1.8 million. Like, wow. So statistically speaking, running for senator in Alaska, you got a decent chance of winning. Okay? Now, Senate's easy. Everybody gets the same number. It's that simple. Right? In the House, it's different. Remember, House of Representatives, what do we base representation on? Population. The more people you have, the more representation you get in Congress. Right? The House is based on population. Why do states care about getting more representatives in the House? It's easier to pass the laws and shape the laws for the country when you've got more representatives. For example, California has 53 members in the House out of 435. I mean, that's like 12% of the House members are from California.
What do we have?
3. West Virginia has 3 lonely House members. That's not even 1%. Ah, man. All right? But California gets a huge say. So, like, obviously, you get to shape laws. Think of it, go back to our journal question, if we're talking about abortion laws at the national level. All right? California has a lot of say-so on how to shape abortion policy or what to stop. All right? Then you think about Texas. Texas is, I think, right now at 36. They've got a lot of say-so as well. Right? There's another reason that states care about their House representation. Okay? It's also connected to electoral votes. Now remember, the number of electoral votes in the presidential election, they add your number of senators to your number of House representatives. So your state becomes more valuable in the presidential election the more House representatives you have. All right? What do we know about population of states that happens over time, though? Do populations of West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky always stay the same? No. People are always moving to different locations. States are gaining and losing population. Okay? First of all, let me show you a map real fast. This is for the House. Okay? All of these are congressional districts throughout the United States. Okay? Like in West Virginia, we have 3 House members, so we have 3 districts. One person represents each district. Here in the Southern District, it's Carol Miller. Second District, Alex Mooney. And the First District, this guy with a great mustache named David McKinley. Okay? Those are our 3 people. And the population for these 3 districts is relatively the same.
Do North and South, do they only get 1?
What is it? Yeah. These right here, like Wyoming, the Dakotas, Montana, Alaska, they only have 1. Okay? You're guaranteed at least 1. But remember, we're like, nobody living here. I know. You're like, I'm the one House representative in that state. Right? But then you look at California, and you've got this huge number of districts out here. Same thing in Texas. Right? Because they have massive amounts of population. Even states, like you look at a state like New York or even Massachusetts, which is still has a lot of people for a state that size, it's a big deal. Vermont, only 1. Oh, that's so sad. So sad. All right, so this is how House representation works. They divide up or carve up these areas into little districts. Now, let me show you something. Hit the lights for a second, Armstrong. Look over at Nevada is a good example, okay? See that little dark red dot in the southern part of Nevada? Anybody want to take a guess what city that's in? Or what city surrounds that little district?
Vegas.
Las Vegas, okay? Because that's where a huge chunk of their population is, all right? The little 3-sided area right here that's in the orange, that's like Reno and Carson City, and then the rest of Nevada is a big frickin' desert, okay? But the same population lives in that little dot, that lives in this orange thing, that lives in the big red desert, okay? Ideally, every House member should represent about the same number of people, okay? So this place right here that has Las Vegas, that's got about 600,000 people, same as the population here in southern West Virginia, give or take a few. Okay? So these are our House districts. Now, what we do to make sure that these, like every state gets the right amount of representation, every 10 years, we'll go back to West Virginia in a second, every 10 years we have a census, okay? That's how we know how everybody is got the right number of representatives. We do a census every 10 years. We count the people. This past year, 2020, was a census year. And you had people working for the federal government, and their job was to go around into every hill, holler, nook, and cranny and find everybody and count them. Right? They try to get people to voluntarily submit this information so that, obviously the more people you have, you want more representation in Congress. Right? And once the numbers are counted at the end of this year, and they extended a little bit this year because of COVID, but once the numbers are counted, they're going to look at your state and see how much population you gained or lost, and they're going to determine how many representatives you're going to get for the next 10 years, okay? And they call that apportionment, or sometimes you'll hear the word allotment, but usually it's called apportionment. The census determines how many representatives you're going to get, okay? And we call that apportionment, or sometimes they'll call it allotment, but apportionment's the word you normally see. Right? And here's the crazy part. There's 435 people in the House, and that number never changes. So if somebody gains population and they gain a seat, that means what had to have happened somewhere else? Somebody lost a seat. Okay? Now, I'll go back to this in just a second. Don't worry about this extra stuff right here. I want to show you a couple maps. This was 1990 to 2000. Okay? And you see the states that down here in the south, the dark blue gained 2 seats and the light blue gained 1. The green one lost seats. What does that tell you? Where is everybody moving? South. All right? And this used to be where manufacturing, factory jobs were in America, and people left and moved south because work. Work is one of the biggest things that causes people to move. All right? And you see a lot of states say the same. All right? Here's what happened after 2010. Okay? Texas, huge gain in population. They have 4 extra seats from after 2010. You see Florida, a big winner. Out in the west, a lot of people moved out there. And once again, people moved from this region down here. Now notice something about this map too. Louisiana loses a seat. Why does Louisiana lose a seat? Hurricane Katrina. Okay? And a lot of people, Hurricane Katrina got displaced, and they went to surrounding states. They just never came back. And Louisiana was kind of miffed about that. But they're like, hey, man, we just count the people, okay? That's what we do. Now, last thing to show you. Projections for after 2020. West Virginia projected that we will probably lose a seat. That's going to create a problem. Look, Montana's going to get a second one. I don't know, who lives in Montana, really? All right? Once again, Texas gaining 3, okay?
Why are so many people moving to Texas?
That's a good question. And the answer is opportunity. Texas by itself has like the world's 12th biggest economy. All right? California, same way. People move to places largely for opportunity. Also, another reason too, the people that come over here legally, a lot of Mexican citizens who have come over here legally, they stay in Texas. They don't really go anywhere else. So, Texas keeps gaining population. And there are some people who want to argue, too, that we should even count illegal immigrants for that. Now, Texas would probably like that because they'd probably get more representation. All right? That's a good place for us to stop there, kiddos. We'll talk about what we do with that representation tomorrow.